An extract from the dispatch of General Viscount Wellington. Flores de Avila, 24th of July, 1812. Respecting the action of the Heavy Brigade of the King's German Legion at Garcia Hernandez. We renewed our pursuit at break of day in the morning with the same troops, and Major General Bock's and Major General Anson's brigades of cavalry, which joined during the night. And having crossed the Tormes, we came up with the enemy's rear of cavalry and infantry near La Serna. They were immediately attacked by the 2 brigades of dragoons, and the cavalry fled, leaving the infantry to their fate. I have never witnessed a more gallant charge than was made on the enemy's infantry by the Heavy Brigade of the King's German Legion under Major General Bock, which was completely successful, and the whole body of the infantry, consisting of 3 battalions of the enemy's 1st Division, were made prisoners. The account of Captain Karl von Hodenberg, 1st Heavy Dragoons of the King's German Legion, describing the action at Garcia Hernandez in a letter to a friend. Near Salamanca, 25th of July, 1812. Your friends escaped in the Battle of Salamanca on the 22nd. On the 23rd, our brigade have covered themselves with glory. The papers, I flatter myself, will tell you, we broke 3 solid squares of infantry, in which no cavalry have succeeded before. General Bock led us in noble style. Deccan's squadron was the first, Reisenstein's the second, and to both their unparalleled bravery is in a great measure owing our great exploit. But indeed, everyone, without exception, was conspicuous in gallantry, or we could never have succeeded. We dashed in like madmen, and our blades carried with them the bloody revenge that we have so long owed them. In less than half an hour, we had 1,500 prisoners, and 200 more towards evening. The French were formed on a ridge of hills, and we charged up a hollow way. Our loss, my heart bleeds to tell you, is great. 150 men, either dead or so badly wounded that we are burying them every minute. Reisenstein is perfectly well, so are the General and I, and we survivors glory in our achievement. Half our brigade are reached as. General Bock commands now the whole cavalry, Sir Stapleton Cotton having been wounded in the Battle of Salamanca. I have nothing to add more. Yours ever sincerely, Hodenberg. P.S. Excuse this hurry, but life is all we have left. The account of Lieutenant Hartwig von Witzendorf, Adjutant, 1st Heavy Dragoon Regiment, King's German Legion. July the 23rd, 1812, 1 a.m. The brigade was ordered to set off to pursue the enemy, together with Anson's brigade, the 1st and Light Division. By watering and waiting for the infantry, it was 8 o'clock before we marched on again. On the right bank of the Tormes, around 9 o'clock. Around 9 o'clock, Anson's brigade, which was in front of us, saw the enemy in the plain of Garcia Hernandez, and proceeded. As we saw the enemy, which consisted of cavalry and infantry, in the distance, the regiment was formed. Anson's brigade moved to the right behind Garcia Hernandez, charging the French cavalry, which, however, fled, and we were given the order to charge the enemy in the flank. The 1st squadron went forward and charged cavalry, which fled. It took 5 horses as prisoners, and an ammunition cart drawn by 4 mules. The 3rd squadron, led by Captain von der Decken, charged, without command, a solid infantry square. formed on the left side of the mountain, broke it despite the terrible small arms fire, and made them all prisoners. Captain von Reitzenstein, with the 2nd Squadron, immediately followed the 3rd Squadron and charged a square, which was even higher on the hill, and was also happy to break and capture it. The prisoners, whose total number was said to have been between 1,400 and 1,500, were then brought back. In this affair, which was so honourable for the regiment, and especially for the 3rd and 2nd Squadrons, Lieutenant Voss, Lieutenant Hugel, 1 sergeant, and 27 men were killed. Captain von der Decken, Cornet Tapp, 3 sergeants, and 31 men were wounded. After the wounded were taken to Garcia Hernandez, the regiment, which was very weak, marched forward again, but received the order to bivouac close to Garcia Hernandez. The account of Captain Georg Heinrich von Hattorf, 1st Heavy Dragoon Regiment, King's German Legion. The day after the Battle of Salamanca, on July the 23rd, 1812, the Heavy Dragoon Brigade of Major General von Bock set off very early to pursue the enemy. Unfortunately, however, we probably halted a little too long, in part to draw regiments to us, in part to reconnoitre the enemy, so we only had a look on at the enemy rearguard around 10 o'clock. The part of the enemy that our brigade encountered may have been 5,000 men strong, and consisted of infantry that had not been in the battle the day before. Cavalry and artillery were formed in 2 columns, and posted as advantageously as possible. The cavalry and artillery stood on the back of a mountain range, but the infantry stood in solid squares at the exit of 2 canyons, so that it could only be attacked from one side with advantage, and was nevertheless covered by the other 2 arms. Even before we saw the enemy, we started a gallop, and so squadrons and regiments were formed. The 1st Squadron, commanded by Captain H. von Hattorf, of the 1st Regiment, soon went to the right and engaged 2 squadrons of dragoons, which they overthrew and pursued. Although Captain Decken, who commanded the 3rd Squadron, had no order to attack the enemy column, which was positioned on the left and consisted of 3 solid squares, each about 700 men strong, some squadrons of cavalry, and 3 cannons, he attacked the square, which was standing next to him, in such good order, and with such determination, that nothing could resist him. The first square was broken, and a terrible carnage began. Captain Reitzenstein, whose squadron included your late brother, and me, followed the good example, and so the 2nd square was attacked and broken with the same good success, although the infantry held its countenance very well, and served bravely, even firing lying on the earth. Their fire was not as murderous as the shell fire, because the former was directed too high. After the 2nd square was overthrown, we lost most of the dead, because we got right into the shell fire during the follow-up, and it was also here where your brother became a victim of his bravery. According to the men who were nearest to him, he had been very busy, of which his sword was evidence. Probably he and his horse received the same shot, as it lay only a few paces from him. A squadron of the 2nd Regiment, which followed us, attacked the 3rd square, also came into it, but had probably been a little too unclosed, so that it lost a lot without being able to carry out much execution. A great part of the square at least saved itself. The other 2 squadrons of the regiment served as reserve. The account of Surgeon Daniel Friedrich Detmer, 2nd Heavy Dragoon Regiment, King's German Legion. On the 23rd, at 2 o'clock in the morning, our brigade set off to pursue the retiring enemy. At Calvarasa de Abajo, Lord Wellington put himself at our head, and we continued to march to the Tormes, which we waded through 1 league to the left of Alba, and held for half an hour to give the infantry and artillery time to get close. Lord Wellington then sent our brigade, the order to move to the front, on the right, and charge the enemy. The latter had posted his cavalry at Garcia Hernandez, about 1 league, and 3 infantry battalions behind that place on the heights in squares, which were attacked impetuously and broken by our brigade, taking 1,500 prisoners and killing and wounding a lot. Of course our loss was very great, resulting in 130 dead and wounded, along with 3 officers dead and 3 wounded. Among the former was Captain B. Usla, my dear and unforgettable friend, whose honest and excellent character made him inestimable to all his acquaintances, and whose so untimely but glorious ending cost me bitter tears. The mass of the wounded occupied me all day and a part of the night, and the following was used to bind about 60 heavily wounded French. On the 25th I escorted our wounded to Salamanca, and was kept there to take the same, besides many wounded Englishmen, in all nearly 200, into treatment. These people suffered immensely from the necessary lack of beds, blankets, laundry, and clean bandages, and this made me very embittered by the laborious but pleasant business of helping and alleviating suffering. On August the 5th, I received an order to go to the regiment, because no surgeon was with the brigade at that time, whereupon I started my march on the 7th.